Hi, it's Jacob, and this is an NYP clip. Click up here to see the full podcast. Enjoy the video. Which is good old Benjamin Sasse's Fremont speech. So just to fill people in who haven't heard about this, which is probably most of you to be honest, Ben Sasse, he did a graduation speech for Fremont High School for their online graduation ceremony. And it brought some controversy to him. So let's get into our opinions on this. The link for his speech is below. So Colton, do you want to get started?
Actually, I'd like to wait to see what you two have to say about it first.
Okay. Chris, do you want to get started?
Yeah, I'll start. Okay, so what Sasse said was clearly offensive, and obviously people are going to be very, very upset about that. Me personally, I don't think he was trying to be offensive to anybody. I think for the most part, he was trying to be funny. Like, he was trying to make jokes.
Keyword trying.
Yeah, but and just to point out something real quick, he is not the only person or even only politician to ever make a odd or inappropriate joke in the middle of a commencement speech. So in that regard, like, this is not a Ben Sasse is the only person ever that has ever done this. But he was trying to be funny, but in the end, it did not come off that way, and it came off very offensive and hurtful to some people. And quite frankly, just wasn't something that you really would want to hear at a graduation ceremony.
Well, when I think about Ben Sasse's speech, I mean, sure, he made some comments that weren't necessarily the best, but I thought he did a good job. I actually kind of enjoyed the speech that he gave. It kind of had a little bit of a lighter tone to it compared to what's going on in the world. And there were a lot of other people who I want to notice and bring up that I think did worse with their graduation speeches. For example, at the Graduate Together thing, Obama had a speech that I think was very politically driven and was just trying to push his agenda one way. And I think that's not getting enough heat as it should.
But it's Obama. He's yes, cute, and he reminds us of simpler times.
He's very charismatic, but it was so political.
Yeah, and well, I do agree that he could have made it less political, but he has enough swag to pull it off. That's the problem. Is Ben Sasse has no swag.
Have you seen Ben Sasse's Twitter page? Like, it is literally memes. It's only memes.
It's a little cringy.
By this at all. I'm not surprised by his speech.
Yeah. With Ben Sasse's speech, I found it super cringy, just overall. And he was pretty offensive, whether or not he was meaning it or not, to especially mental health professionals. I think that was the one that really stuck out to me. Was
psychologists?
Yeah, psychologists. The 95% of them, all they do is make a crap ton of money trying to fix problems from high school, and the other 5% do experiments on hamsters. Yeah, that was like, I get it was kind of funny because it was so bad. Like, when you see a speech and the person is just dragging themselves down, that it becomes funny. I'm laughing at him, not with him, when I watch this speech. And I think that it's very contradictory of the Republican Party to be attacking mental health professionals, because mental health is kind of something that they like to talk about and keep in their back pocket for a lot of issues. especially with the recent shutdown stuff, you've heard multiple Republicans comment that not only do we need to start reopening for the economy, but also for people's mental health, because they say that they're concerned about spikes in overdoses and suicides. But then they start making fun of psychologists, which are literally the people who's going to stop that from happening.
So Colton, I'd agree with you that like when you talk about how Obama made his commencement speech very political and very agenda driven, I'd agree with you on that, and that's something that really shouldn't be done, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're celebrating people, whether it's high school or college or whatever. We're celebrating them completing a step of their education. And that's kind of what these commencement speeches kind of should be kept at. I'm fine with a few jokes, but I feel like the jokes he was making were fairly I don't know, unprepared, or at least he did not get the comedic timing correct to be able to pull off the jokes.
What I can say though is, as for a pre-recorded speech, it definitely could have been better. But I also recognize he's probably busy with a lot more important topics and issues at hand.
Yeah. The thing is he put a lot more work into it than he had to. This should have been a softball. It should have just been, hey, what's up? Congrats on graduating. I'm Ben Sasse. Thumbs up. Flash the Ben Sasse logo. Done. And instead, he put a lot of work into talking about, hello, we're sorry. Apparently, our information isn't enough for Zoom, and they want us to give them money so that we can be on Zoom for longer than 40 minutes. But
internet censorship.
Yeah, Zoom is against NYP, confirmed. We're going to tweet about it, and they're going to get canceled. So back off to talking about Ben Sasse, everyone's favorite Nebraskan senator.
Deb Fisher's better.
We all know that. I mean, I don't like either of them, but I guess Ben Sasse is a little cute. That's the only thing he's got going for him.
I used to send letters to Deb Fisher. She'd respond to me.
Did she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was her secretary, but she respond.
Yeah, one time I got really mad about something that was going on. I think it was when the flooding was happening.
Oh, yeah.
And I called like all the representatives for Nebraska that I could get my hands on, and none of them answered. And when I left voicemails, the first thing I said was like something climate change, and I got no responses, except for the mayor of Lincoln, which is a dirty damn Democrat.
You should have called Ernie Chambers. He would have responded.
Oh, Ernie would have talked to me all day.
Yeah. Freaking Ernie.
We'll get Ernie on the podcast, don't worry. Back to Ben Sasse.
Oh,
no. Back to Ben Sasse. We were comparing Obama's speech to Ben Sasse's speech. And while I completely agree that Obama probably shouldn't have made it as political as he did, but I don't know, he pulled it off. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it didn't make me angry or anything. And what he said wasn't exactly controversial. Controversial. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Controversial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, with the psychology field, though, he's not necessarily wrong. Like, I know a lot of people who are in the psychology field taking classes right now, and they have to like compete really hard to be like the top of their class, and that's like the best chance that they have to get a good job, from my understanding.
Well, he was saying that psychologists like they get paid a lot of money. Like, he was making it sound like they get paid too much for their job.
Yeah, but then
their job is very, very important.
He also mentioned how don't go into psychology.
Yeah, he also said that, which was kind of a.
He
was really being negative towards psychologists. Which my mom is a mental health professional.
I think his therapist needs to get in touch with him about that.
Yeah, he needs to go to therapy. Whatever is bubbling up inside of Ben Sasse needs soothed. He needs to take some Tums or something.
Pop his butter.
Pop his butter? Yes. No one gets that.
No. We are not letting that onto this show. We are not letting that onto this show.
Can we get Aiden Morrow as a guest?
Please, no. Unless, like, we can make him, like, do a backflip or something.
I'm down. I'll DM him. So back to popping butters. No, I'm kidding. I just, overall, I think that Ben Sasse's speech, it could have been a lot easier. I know I mentioned earlier that there should have been a softball. He went out of his way to make it bad. It wasn't like it wasn't a live speech where he, got thrown off, or he, multiple variables were there. This was probably his third take anyway. And this was the outcome.
It wasn't very good. He had to practice it, which is probably why it didn't land quite right.
I think it didn't land right because he's a senator, not a
comedian. Well, I mean, what's
not
the
a comedian.
They're both clowns.
That's true. Both of them barely have jobs. And everybody thinks that they can do that job.
Yeah.
That's why Al Franken was in the Senate before he got canceled.
You make some good points.
So, Colton, I know that you don't necessarily dislike this speech. Do you think it was appropriate for a grad speech?
For a high school grad speech, I think it was. I'd say it was okay for a high school grad speech. I mean, everyone that I've talked to about graduation have told me that they don't remember anything about the graduation, and I bet in 6 years or so, I won't even remember Ben Sasse giving a speech. So I just don't see the big deal and the fuss about it, even though he is a senator.
Yeah, I feel like the bar has been dropped for politicians a lot because something's been going on for the last 3.5 years. I don't know who could have done that.
Like professionalism within the Senate and whatnot.
Yeah, there's a difference between saying what needs to be said and being a dick.
Yeah.
Like, yes, sometimes if you need to take the gloves off and say, "I'm sorry, my fellow senator, but you're wrong," I'm totally down for that. But if senators and politicians are like yelling into a camera about psychologists and their hamster problems.
Here's what I can say to that, though. I mean, in 2016, the senators saw what happened with Donald Trump getting elected. And the main reason he got elected for me isn't because he's a good candidate. It's because he speaks his mind. He doesn't think through what he's going to say. He just says it with no filter. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people got behind him, is because they knew that whatever he said, that's what he's actually thinking. And I think that's why it's kind of shifting a little bit.
I can get why people like that. And like, there are politicians who do the not fitting in very well. One of those being like Tulsi Gabbard, who will come out and, poke the bear if the bear needs to be poked. But it kind of seems like with half of speeches from senators that their only goal is to either make someone angry or try to be fun or something like that. even like to the point of Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech.
Yeah.
I don't think people should have been mad at her about that, because there are a lot of senators who've done worse, but I don't think it should be appropriate. But I guess the bar is low enough now, I don't care.
Basically, like, I call that just being purposely divisive. Like, we have a government that is heavily divided. It's no longer really issue versus issue. It's strictly Democrat versus Republican.
Yeah.
It like, even Democrats have differing views across the board, but they're not going to challenge each other because they're supposed to be together to beat the Republicans. And the same thing goes on the Republican side. So and so you actually do have plenty of people on both sides that are in the middle and would be willing to work across the aisle to actually get some things done. But instead you have people that decide to sit there and be purposely divisive and continue keeping our country divided. As for Sasse, like, I don't think that was his intent there. Like, I don't think he definitely wasn't doing a commencement speech to be a divisive force within government. However, just like I said, like, I'm fine with jokes. I mean, I take a joke as good as anybody, but I mean, if it's a pre-recorded speech, you need to make sure that your comedic timing and also your jokes in themselves are appropriate.
The craziest thing to me is that there had to be someone who had to watch that over before they put it up. Someone had to look at that, and someone looked at that and was like, "Oh yeah, that's good," and then clicked